There we go. All right, I started recording it. I'll record it, and then I can like make a little folder or something for those that miss it. But just letting a few people get in here. It's kind of like a random live stream, but figured it's the best way to answer questions that people have after watching the video. Ten seconds ago. Sweet. Thanks for watching. All right. As for indices, this is where I think price is going to draw to. Just this fair value gap here. I personally wanted just take this there. I wanted to reach into this fair value gap here before going higher. So that was kind of what I was looking for yesterday. Yesterday just kind of consolidated, right? Thing is we have an SMT at the high and the low. So it's a little sus. Right, we go to E or YM. YM is just absolutely sending. And that's where you can just determine relative strength, right? So knowing that YM's the strongest, ES is in the middle, and Q's the weakest out of the bunch, right? Max to my laptop. Can you guys hear me all right? Or is it not loud? Not loud enough? Rock, it might be your laptop. No, this is not live streaming to YouTube. This is just people, Discord people. I'm probably gonna do a live stream on YouTube in the weekend, or this weekend maybe, with Matt Lober, says Sniper. Possibly one with AM again. We'll see how that goes. But if you guys have any questions, I'm going to, you can request to speak. You can answer some questions. We'll probably keep this somewhat short, like 30 minutes or so I can get back outside, read a book, enjoy the sun. But 30 hours, yeah, definitely. But yeah, if you have a question, just go ahead and request to speak. You should be able to just go to the bottom and hit request to speak. It should be like a little hand button. Or you can ask, so I just finished Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and then yesterday I started and finished How to Consciously Design Your Ideal Future. And then right now I think I'm gonna read Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender. So just like mindset books. Let's see. If I want to make an entry, better in what time frame? Well, it depends what your time frame is derived from, right? So if I'm looking, you know, for a reversal here in the daily chart, I'm generally not going to go just to the 1 minute and wait for a 1 minute reversal, right? From there, I'm going to generally drop down to the hourly and then wait for the hourly structure, right? Because like right here, if you're just waiting for a 1 minute reversal, like let's see if we go to a 1 minute, right? Might work. But like, let's find an example. If you're just always waiting for a 1 minute structure shift, right? On a daily level, you might get faked out a lot, right? I don't have any like good examples on me right now, so it's kind of hard to just snag one that will make sense. But once we get this change in state of delivery here, right? So down close here, this is our order block, right? Close above it, retest it. This is when we're starting a trend on this time frame up, right? So you can see that, right? So why am I choosing the daily fair value gap? Well, internal, but also we're reaching for this high, right? Or if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but like where else do I see price going right here? To me, it makes sense to reach for this high here. Then I look for, do we displace over this high, right? If we go higher, or if we don't displace over it, where are we likely to go? But most of my narrative's derived off the daily chart, right? Which is just daily fair value gap there. So with your question, it doesn't really matter what is the best time frame. I would just say it's relative to your PD array, right? So if I'm using a 1 minute chart, I'm looking for a structure, then I want like a 15-minute PD array. If I have a daily, right, then I want an hourly, right? So I just drop down those time frames. Let's see. Okay, no one's requesting to speak, so we'll just do questions in the chat then. Make sure. Okay, yeah, you guys can hear me. My mic does this thing where it cuts out and I'll be talking for like 5 minutes. No one can hear me. Wake up. OTE. I mean, I'm not abandoning it yet, but to me, right? Because I was. Oh, were you meaning last week when I was looking for this area? Or I mean this, right? So I was looking for this area. Why did I abandon that? Just because price is trending up right now. Still respecting why I'm making new highs or pushing higher. I struggle in price action like this, right? I'm good for 1-2 these days, and I don't like trading once we're already over. But yeah, mostly, right? Because I wanted it to reach down into here, right? That was my plan. Here's Friday. I wanted it to do something like this, right? Go down into here to then go higher. And that makes sense in terms of discount and premium, right? When we have this here, because it reaches back down into a discount PD array, right? And then once we have this daily candle close up, I know that this is likely wrong. And the only reason I know that is because of the weekly candle, right? Because if we draw out our weekly open, so Monday, right? Here's our weekly open, right? We put in a low. If we're going to continue higher, right? We're likely to continue higher and not really reach back to this weekly open unless we're going to get a bearish reversal candle. So then once we put in this, I think the high was easier to see on NQ. Yeah, right. And this is what I'm going to be talking about in my daily bias video. Is that right? Monday. This is what I mean by get a bearish reversal candle. Once we do this, we're only likely to see this open again if we're going to reverse and put in a candle that looks like this. I think this one. Oh, nice. I think I have to go and replay, but I'll just draw it. Right, this is what our weekly candle looked like. Right, that looks probably terrible. Right? So once we start to do this, I know that there's going to be two things that happen, right? We just get continuation up until we cap the weekly range, and then we put in a candle that looks like this. This is kind of what goes through my head when I think of the weekly candle. Right? We put in a candle that looks like this. Right? So that'd be your like classic buy candle, right? So we either get that, that's similar to what happened this week, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, we cap the range, close back in. So I'd either be expecting this or what we got here, right? So then we come back down, close in. So why did I not look back over into here? Well, just in terms of the weekly candle, I don't think the weekly candle is going to go from all the way up here, all the way down here in 2 or 3 days, right? Obviously, this candle could have continued down, but with the bull or this bearish reversal candle, essentially, I'm just expecting it to close around or below the weekly open, right? And it closes right in here. So that's kind of why I disregarded those once I realized I was wrong. GBP USD New York session. Let's go to GBP. I mean, we're stuck inside on the day. Right, but what do you notice here, right? So we're inside this daily range, or the previous daily range. Where are we likely to reach for, right? This is how you get a draw on liquidity if we're inside day. Are we more likely to reach for this low or this high? Because if not, are we going to consolidate in here forever? No. So I'd say we're more likely to reach for this previous day high, right? And where do you get that? Well, what do you notice right there? From the previous, you wanted me to explain it in terms of the last video. We can't displace below this low, right? Come back down, displacement. There's the candle that tells you, right? Displacement. Now, how do you confirm that? Well, right here, right? We get continuation. Why do we retrace here, right? If we're going to go reach for this high, we don't displace over that high, right? So can't displace over that high. We're going to at least come back into a discount of the range, right? Well, what's our range right here? Right here. Sorry, I drew those backwards. But what do we have? We have a low resting with a fair value gap. So marking that out. There's a PD array, and then we move higher. And how do you know this is confirmed? Well, displacement, displacement. So where would I like to see this reach? This high. Then I'm looking, as I talked in the video, do we displace over it or do we not? If we do what we did right here, right, we just go like this, well, then where are we likely to go? Well, then I'd be looking right here, wherever we close, back into a discount. What do we have in a discount? Well, we have a fair value gap there, right? So that's kind of how I do it. That's obviously expecting a bullish bias, right? Or going for this previous day high. And that's why it's important to have some sort of drawn liquidity or bias. And that's why I derive it from the daily chart, right? So what happens here though, if we don't take outside day, right? Then I'm looking for a failure to displace over either side of this range. This is very similar to, it was actually like the first day I started the Discord. We had this range here, right? Let me we had this range here, right? This, oh my gosh, there we go. This range, we stayed inside. What does this candle do? Breaks it. Can it displace over it? No. Where do we go? Other side of the range. Displacement down, continuation down, till where? This little tiny fair value gap here. Right? So that's what I'd be looking for here. So hopefully that would be, that's your New York session with there. I mean, we can always go down to our 15-minute. It's generally what I mark out. Right? Kind of a choppy profile, right? Nothing really great. Like I don't personally really like this a lot, but you can see once we get displacement over this high, right? Just marking out highs. Any displacement over it? No. Any displacement over this high? No, right? We failure to displace, we make a new low. Okay, here's our high. Do we displace over it? Yes. What happens after we displace over it? Order block fair value gap. That's when you shift structure and move higher, right? So even if you're not even looking at anything else but just the 5-minute chart here, you can see how that works out, right? So do we displace below? Yes. Retracement, right? Can't displace over this high. That's just another retracement. Make a new low. Do we displace below this low? No. So where are we likely to go? Back in. Get this large up close candle. Okay. We retest this low. Box setup if you notice that. Displacement again over this high. Where is this telling us? Higher. We respect this here. Displace higher. Now every up down close candle here should support price, right? Once we close over it. Hopefully that helped, Perva. You're trying to start to learn ICT 2022. That's it. That's it. Just 2022 mentorship. Oh yeah. What? I'm not sure if I'm taking. Yeah, let me see. Reading some questions. Okay, I think I got your biased is Everest. I like that. That shit's funny. Alright, okay. 5 minute, please. Oh, you want me to go to the 5 minute here? Is that? Yeah, so 5 minute, right? So this looks a little different, but that's where where it comes to you'll get to the point where your brain, right? As long as you know where this candle opens, right? So new 15er opens here, closes, goes down, closes back up, 9:30. So you know that open here, low, closes up there, right? So then you know that this wicks. It's easier just to go up a time frame. But what do we notice here? If you go to, let me just pull up this. All right, whatever. So if you notice here, right, this candle pattern, we're actually just going to snip this. All right. So if you notice this, right, this is my favorite, just reversal. Okay, we have some sort of level or previous low. We get a nice down close candle into it, displacement out, right? What happens when price returns to this level? Displacement out of it, right? Then from here, you can use really anything, right? OTE, fair value gap, whatever. From here, once we're in a buy model, right, or on the buy side of the curve, these down close candles should support price. Once they stop supporting price, that means it's likely to reverse. So 5 minutes kind of clean there as well. You just have to notice that in terms of the last video, displacement down. So might be thinking, okay, when we're right here, I'm thinking more downside, right? But what do we get? Displacement met with displacement. Following the displacement, bullish, right? Even here, right? Displacement up, okay. Even if I'm bullish, what am I looking at? Once we come back here, highs, right? So we reach this high. Do we get any displacement over this high? No. Where do we go? Lower. It's kind of all there is to it. Let's see. Yeah, I'm recording these sessions. Let me see what Raven said. Oh, thanks, Dave, for the boost. I'd like to see how many people have been more success or more struggling with the silver bullet. Okay, yeah. If you guys want to look at, I'll just vote here. Go vote this poll. It's kind of an interesting poll. Yeah, what's up, FX for living? Yes. Bye. I was just regarding. Yes, that was my trade. All right, awesome. Yeah, that's kind of all there is to it. I don't really like this just because I prefer to have more definite daily bias, right? So when there's days when I just know where price is likely to draw to, right? That's why on it. Oh yeah. So I was gonna make this into the video last night, but you can see what I have marked out, right? So what happens here? We don't displace, so where are we likely to reach for? At least a discount. So we open up, continue lower. And then a reason to expect this as well as we go to DXY, we're kind of back into an equilibrium of this range, right? So expecting some sort of consolidation, right? And just with indices, how they're moving. But I thought I posted that, but I think I forgot to. But you can see how it's going. So from here, I'd kind of be watching this, right? And then I don't need to know if it's going to react off of it, because if you know the next day model, if I get a reaction, then I just look for it. But obviously, I don't really trade Euro GBP. I just use it more for weak, strong and weak pairs. Let's see. Once you have an MMS and displacement back inside the range, that's you want to be looking for OTE discount. Yes, that is correct. The PDFs are all in the Discord at the bottom. Current confluences I use. See, I don't really care what I use for an entry model because once I have, let's see, I can find a good example. Well, this is what I was watching for Euro, right? Monthly, this would be order block, right? If we close over. So I'm just watching now on the daily to see if we get a reaction, which we missed it a little bit. But current confluences I use. I don't really care in terms of an entry model what I use, right? What my strategy comes down to is, do I have a direction, right, on a higher time frame, so daily, right? So actually, for example, like this is just probably the best example here. What happens here? Well, you saw it in the video because I'm pretty sure I used this example. But once I'm here, then I know I can be bullish, right? So with knowing I can be bullish, then I go to a lower time frame. Then from here, I look for structure that validates my thesis, right? So order blocks, fair value gaps, liquidity sweeps, etc., right? Sweep of this low, cool, can be bullish. Up to these highs, reaching for here. And then ideally, daily fair value gap or these highs. But once, or not the daily fair value gap, but the previous week's high. But once I get that, then from the 5-minute, like let's say I'm looking at this sweep at that low, right? I don't really care what I use to enter in here, right? I could use discount, I could use premium, etc. It just really matters what my risk to reward is, right? Because I have my target. Obviously, higher risk to reward can be better, but I know that this is the low I want with my stop loss. So once I know that, any entry in here doesn't really matter as long as it gives me risk to reward to my target that meets my criteria, right? Or you can look for certain things like, oh, nice, no displacement below this low, we're really likely to go. Continue higher. Order block, we never retest it, but, right, you see how that works. Only weekly, so I don't really focus on weekly profiles. I do, but don't, right? And let me kind of explain this. I was planning on making a video series about this later on, but I don't really care if the profile looks like that, you know, or, you get your classic one, or we'll just do this, right? Like, I don't really care what the profile looks like. I'm just more interested is when do we put in this low of the week or high of the week, right? Because then I can have my bias after that. For example, we put in this low this week here on Monday, right? So Tuesday, Wednesday, I can then be bullish. So I don't really care so much about the profiles. I just think about the formation of the daily candle, not exactly where they put in highs, lows, etc. Right? I'm just looking for a low to my draw. Do you consider breaks of fair value gaps as breaks of structure? Well, I focus on intermediate term highs and lows generally. I don't use fair value. Like I'm not sure what you mean. Like, are you saying if we have a fair value gap here and we break over it, I use that as a break of structure? I don't, but I will watch to see if this supports price higher. I'm not really sure. You'd have to expand on that. Do you like ICT strategy with 100%? There is no 100%. And if you do have 100%, then your win rate is probably 0.2 like 0.2 R or like 0.1 R. First of all, thank you much. Yeah, when price failed to displace over the last high, back in range. How would you plan on entry for short? I would have to see a better example, but one way that uh, you watch my box setup video, a lot of times when you fail to displace over a high, I'm trying to find like a good example. But a lot of times when you fail to displace over a high, right? So for example here, fails to displace over this high, you'll get a retest of this high that you displaced over, or that deviation range, right? Does that make sense? So if we go to like the 5-minute today, right? Where did we deviate from down here? Well, this low, right? Here's a retest of that, right? Whatever. That's the box setup entry, right? So I explain things in different ways to try to simplify it so people don't have to think as hard, right? So for when I'm explaining order blocks and saying that, it needs to make a new low before a move higher, why am I saying that? Well, this makes a high resistance liquidity run, which is better for a stop loss, right? So instead of explaining that in my videos, I just keep it really simple, make a new low before this becomes a valid order block. Why? Well, there's other reasons to it, but I just try to keep it super simple. But one way you can do that is with these failures to displace, right? Look at this previous high, ready? Fail to displace over, we come back in. What do we retest? We retest right there, right? It happens a lot. Right here, fail to displace over this high, what do we retest? Well, in this case, the bodies, right? That's the box setup, right? So this is our deviation from the range. And then when we retest the deviation, happens a lot, right? Right here, we have a previous low, deviate, or displace down, displace up. What do we retest? That previous low, right? So there's lots of different ways to do it. Right here even. This will be a lot easier on the lower time frame, but can't displace below this low. See how once we get above these bodies, it supports it, and we get a fair value gap out of it. There's so many different ways to frame something, it really just comes down to bias. Do I have any entry models without displacement? I mean, kind of, not really. If an order block is formed at a good level, and just long the order block break. But I generally like to see displacement. That's kind of what it comes down to. Let me read some questions. Intermediate term high and low. If you watch episode 12 of ICT 2022 mentorship, that's kind of what I focus on. But like this is an intermediate term low, right? Short term low on either side. This is intermediate term because it rebounds as a fair value gap. I'm planning on making videos on this in the future. It's just videos take time to make. They generally take me a few hours. So it's like, takes me a minute. Based on market maker models, price should trade into a daily fair value gap for internal. External. So internal range liquidity is just a fair value gap. However, you can target external without having to hit internal, right? For example, here, we retrace here, we go reach for external here, and we never hit this fair value gap, right? It's not always going to be 100%. But if you notice here, we take this out, where do we go? Fair value gap. Where do we go from the fair value gap? Up here, right? Back to external, and then now I'd want to see this high, right? But we're into lunch session. Based on the same model. So I'm assuming you watched MMXM's course. Price should trade. Well, so the swing pattern you have to fit into a narrative, right? Just because you form a swing doesn't mean that the fourth or fifth candle is going to go take these lows, right? Because we might just be putting in a higher low. if that makes sense. How do you think about time frames with displacement if you're watching M1 and 5 and it fails to displace on the 5 minute but displaces on the 1? Generally, I give more value to that 5 minute spin. So if I have like a 5 minute high, I'd want to see the 1 minute displace over that as well. Or if it fails to displace over that, then wait for another secondary entry that gives me a lower risk in a discount of this range, right? Right, so if there's a high right here, it failed to displace over on the 5 minute, but we have all this displacement on the 1 minute, then I'm looking for maybe a lower risk entry in here. But it kind of depends on narrative, right? Higher time frames and bias. But then, or you can just wait for the actual displacement and then get a secondary entry. It's kind of tough. Generally what I did is I would watch the 15, 5 and 1, right? Kind of clean there. See what it looked like on ES. But what's up, Jeremy? Yeah, here, I'll let you speak. It's entering based off of OB or if we got risky. Well, high probability point of interest. If you look at that reversal model I gave, that's high probability for me. It comes down to narrative, right? Like if I'm expecting this to go higher, right, after sweeping a low, right, I'd have to go out, right? Then yeah, entering in a 5 minute OB is not a bad idea here for me. Right? But I prefer to see, I don't know, that comes kind of with experience. But like right here, right? How would I enter this? Well, I can just take this OB entry, go for 2R, or this high, right? Break low, failed to displace. Where do we also reach into? Fair value gap, right? That's how I would frame a trade there. Or you could go down to a lower time frame. I haven't even looked at the charts today because no real clear bias for me. But also a reason to look at that, right? So now in this sweep, we have a little sweep, aggressive down close candle. I would have wanted to see it touch there, but did it reach into the fair value gap? A little bit, right? So fair value gap, higher, right? So you can always refine entries, do whatever. It's hard because it kind of comes down to what catches your eye the best, right? Some people will only look for breakers, right? So right here, instead of looking at this little order block, they'll just be like, oh yeah, I just see this, right? Stuff like that. Everyone's different. Did I accept your request to speak? I think so. No. Yeah, I don't know what's so funny. But if you're trolling, you can just leave. Is entering based on bread and butter model. MMXM's trader, his model essentially is what I trade. And I don't generally trade on Mondays unless I have like a really clear daily level to reach for. Rebalancing a fair value gap. I generally want to see a reach for like the consequent encroachment, but obviously sometimes you can just reach into that fair value gap, like institutional order flow entry drill. But then I generally don't want to see price return to that area until after price is delivered to the drawn liquidity. Sky with that weekly, or if you're using for weekly, yeah, you can use for or a weekly for the 4 hour. But if you're going 4 hour 15, then 1 minute. Take this entry. Nice. But yeah, if you guys, let's see, I think we've been going for about 30 minutes or so now. But if you guys have any other questions, we can go ahead and answer them. Um, and then if not, and if you're confused at kind of what I am talking about right now, I will drop. It's just my newest video right there. That's essentially what we were kind of talking about. So, and I'll give you guys one quick thing. This will be talked about in my um, video next week, but if you just study what happens right here and right here, and then the next day, it's I'll be talking about it in the bias video. I do these videos, it kind of depends on my schedule and what I'm doing. Right now I don't have school until mid-August, so alright, we'll let one person speak. Yeah, what's up? Uh-huh. Yeah, I answered that, but um, essentially I want to see it reach the consequent encroachment. However, if it does hit, or if it is an institutional order flow entry GIL, then I generally want to see it delivered to the drawn liquidity before returning to that, if that makes sense. It can be either. Kind of a tough question because it doesn't need to, like, it doesn't need to close in there to rebalance it, right? Like for example here, a full rebalance would be reaching this low or the high of this candle, right? That'd be a full rebalance. However, I would still consider this mitigated if this next day was going to reach higher, right? But since it doesn't reach for this high and continue lower, then my bias changes. Yeah, or a short or if you have a short-term high on either side. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll answer this last one. A while ago, you made an open midnight video. How do you know? Well, essentially, it wouldn't be a deep discount video. Okay, yeah, here, I'll just explain that. So right here, right? You're saying, go to the 15-minute, we'll mark out midnight and 8:30 if we want. Right, I'm not going to draw them out just because you're saying, why is this not just a deep discount move? Well, when am I searching for stuff in a deep discount is that's when my bias is long, right? But as I just said on Euro GBP, my bias is not long, right? We failed to displace over this high. We're coming back into the range, at least to a discount. So yeah, we can consider that a deep discount on the daily, right? Or like, you can consider this a deep discount, but why would I'm not looking for longs, right? I only want to really be above midnight or 8:30 when I'm looking for shorts, right? So if following that, where's the short setup? Right there, or if price was to return above here, right? That's kind of how I use it, if that makes sense. Yeah. Um, how do I treat Asia session? Normally is the accumulation for the day. That's that's about it. Generally, I like to see Asia accumulate, London manipulate, New York distribute. Right, so if we just go to a random day here, the 12th, right, we'll go to the 15-minute. Right here. You can go to 20 or 19, right? So here's Asia. I'm treating this as just kind of accumulation, right? London, I like to see manipulation. And although we didn't manipulate and take out this side of the range, we do drop below midnight open, right? So this is considered manipulation, right? Then we get a move higher. What happens when we go into New York? We get a continuation, right? That's kind of how I treat it. I'll make videos on a lot of these things. Oh, I did not want to delete all that. I'll make a videos on a lot of these things eventually. But remember at the beginning of the call, I said I was looking for this area on Euro GBP. I think, let me see, let me look at your server real quick, FX. I think you have to have it boosted to a certain level to up it. The box setup is essentially this. You have some sort of range. Don't pay attention to this, it doesn't matter, right? All the focus is on is aggressive down, aggressive up. Once we see this aggressive down, aggressive up, then we look left. What do we have left? Well, I want to see what range that we deviated from. So I want to see whatever low this took out. So if we have some sort of accumulation, we took this low, then I want to see that retested before it goes higher. So if we go back to like NASDAQ here, I think that's where we had it. Or no, we were on GBP USD from earlier, right? And so if we're just looking in this range, where do we see aggressive down, aggressive up? Aggressive down, aggressive up, right here. That's all we're looking at. Then we look left. What range did we sweep? Right here. Then I extend that out. That's the box setup, right? And then I'm looking for, at the very least, the other side of the range, which would be 2R. Or when you fit your narrative or whatever, you could go for London highs, right? 5R, etc., right? Or if you miss that, right, we get a secondary entry. Then any entry in here want to have on this low, or you can just use imbalance end, first target, London highs, or previous day high. That's the box setup. I'm 22. Been trading a little over 2 years. I got into videos because when I started learning ICT, there was a few people asking the same question over and over, and I was like explaining to them. I was explaining to like multiple different people every day the same question, so I was like, well, I'm just gonna make a little video that explains this instead. It'll be way easier. And then that was how I got my YouTube video started. How can you find the other side of the range? Well, you just look. The easiest way is what move, this displacement move down that took out this range, where does this come from? Well, it comes from this high. Boom. Now you have a range. This high, this low. That's a range. It's the most immediate range, right? Then we have a higher range. This is a range. There's so many overlapping ranges, right? And really, I haven't really talked about this either, but once we get this move up, if this is the sell side of the curve and then we're starting buy side, this is the range that I want to long under, right? And I don't pyramid in after this, right? If that's my target, from your target to the low equilibrium of that range. Other models with ICD. Really the only thing I keep in mind is like broadening formations. We'll see if this gives a reaction, right? I'd want it to, because down close candle sweeps this low, have previous day high sitting right there. But obviously, what time is it? 1300. I don't watch after 12. But strong points that help me learn it so quickly. I don't know. I like puzzles. Things like this just kind of, I don't know. I've always been a quick learner, let's say. Routing formations happen on any time frame, but indices, it's probably easiest just to see on like a 15-minute chart, 5-minute chart. For example, let's go back to yesterday. Yeah, I was on NQ. There we go. Right. I just look for some sort of range, right, that gets taken out. Right, so we have this range here. It gets taken out here. Right, then I extend that out. There's it's going to go. Even with just ICT, here's buy side or sell side, right? So if we fail to displace over, or works with routing formations as well, we go take this side of the range. Now it's expanding, right? Then you just extend these out, right, to wherever price is going. And then unless price is going to stay within this range this whole time, it's going to expand at some point over this high. And you can see it's now expanding this, right? And it does that over and over and over. Go to like a 1 minute, because the concept behind it is price is consolidating, right? Unless it's just going to consolidate forever, it's going to have to go one way or the other, right? Unless it goes all this way the whole time forever, it's going to have to go the other way. Where's it going to go? This other side of the range, right? And you're just going to build that out, kind of, if that makes sense, right? So like even small ones, here's a range, got taken out here, right? Here's a low, got taken out, right? It's just expanding price action, if that makes sense. If you could look up Alex Options on Twitter, he's really good at it. Right here, a low. Where does our low get taken out? Here, right? From here, where should we see? Other side of the range, right? And that high took out that low. Kind of draw them right to left, generally. And then they just expand out. So I have a little video on it, but I got the 15-minute. Well, you gotta wait for closes of candles generally to really know if it's a sweep or not. And then also it comes into bias, right? So if I'm upside bias, I kind of mentioned it in the end of the video. I don't know how many people actually make it there. But if I'm bullish bias, I'm looking for displacement up, but then I'm looking for a failure to displace down, right? So if I'm bullish bias, I'm not really looking for it to fail to break London highs, right? Or Asia highs. I'm looking for displacement over that and then OTE generally. However, if it goes to London or Asia session lows, I'm wanting to look to see if that fails to displace below that low. Then it's positioned for long. Box setup, it doesn't matter. It's literally any time frame. Like I generally don't have a preference. I used to trade it on the 15-second. But like, here's another example. What happens? Do we displace over this high? No. Where do we go? Well, I just say discount or premium of the range because it's very simple. So I'd like to see price reach where? Discount this range at least. And we have order block. But yeah, there's so many different ways to frame stuff. It really just truly depends on what you prefer, what you like to see. What's up, Tony? You'll be the last speaker and then probably gonna hop off. Yo, Tony. You are muted if you are trying to talk. What's up? It's going well. Mhm. Yeah. Let's just go to Euro GBP here. Or SGBP USD. Here we go. Something like this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's then the liquidity. Because now that's the high of the range, right? Because when you make a range, so here, we'll just go into replay real quick. And this is like just like how I was talking about broadening formations, right? So right here, if we're just looking, where is our range? Well, we have, I'll just draw some out and then, or actually we'll just start here. Let me replay. So right here, we have a range, right? We have this range from here down to here, but we also have a range that went from here up to here, right? So unless price is going to consolidate in this range forever, it's going to have to take one side or the other, right? So price takes this side of the range now. Now what do we have? Well, now we have a new range, right? So we had that range going from here down, from here up. Now we have a range from this high down to here. Or, you can also say from here to here, because on a lower time frame, that's up, down, right? But if we're just looking at the externals here, right? Price closed below here. So unless we get displacement back up, it's likely to go lower. Let's see what the next candle does. Okay. Now this is a weak candle. We sweep this current range low, right? So now we have a new range, but sweep that low. Now my bias would be in a little bit, right? Okay, we go up. We still haven't taken any internal. And then for those of you wondering about broad information, that would be it. But now where are we likely to reach for? This old high, and now this low that swept becomes the range low, right? Okay, now we took this is gone. Now we're putting equal highs here. So if this would have taken, this would now become the range high. So now we just have equal. So unless we're going to consolidate in here forever, we're going to take out one side or the other, which is more likely. Don't really know or care. We're stuck at equilibrium closing right there, right? However, let's see what happens. Inside bar, right? So more consolidation. Now I expect expansion out. So there we go. Now we took out this side of the range. Now we have a new range, right? Right, build up lows, build more liquidity here, reach up into this fair value gap, close out. So now I'd want to see if this next day is going to drop down there. And that's just next day model, failure to displace PD arrays. Now we took out this range. What do we have? Another range, right? There's also ranges inside those ranges, right? Because now we have this range. But if we're just focusing on the externals, right? Okay, displacement back in the range. I want to see if this supports price. Continue higher. Can't displace out of this range. Okay, drop back in. Where do I want to see? Discount of this range, or PD arrays in a discount. And there we are today, right? So now we have a new range. Yeah. Well, so here's the question. If you were to short right in here on the daily chart, where's your stop going? This high. So there's liquidity there. That's the easiest way to think about it. So, yep, of course. Range is created when. Is that how you backtest? No, I use FX replay, but that's essentially how you can backtest. You can just go to like any candle and you just go candle by candle practicing, right? Like it's the easiest way. That's just daily bias though, bias, right? Like, that's good practice if you struggle with daily bias. Just go to the daily chart. How many of these can you predict, right? There's a lot of days in here I didn't know what was going on, right? There's a few days where I did know what was going on, right? When we, you know, fail to take those highs, I know I want to come back in the range. There's daily bias for that day, right? Oh, we take this low. I'm not certain what's happening the next day. Boom, we close over. Now I want to see if this reacts. Once this, if or this respects, okay, can be bullish here or bullish here, right? Or I was able to predict the bias on this day, right? Not on this day. I didn't know what was going to happen on this day. The next day I was able to, right? So it's not about knowing exactly what every candle's doing. I'm pretty sure if you look at my video today that posted, right, there was a few times where I was like, oh, I think we're going to go for this low. I was wrong, right? I just left it in there because I don't really care. But also it's like, you're not going to know what every candle is doing. The thing that about trading that makes it work is, do you know when you're going to know what a candle's doing, right? So for example, here, once these disrespect or can't close over, I know to be bearish these next days, right? So I have bias these days. I don't have bias these days. The only reason I'd have bias here is because we close over this fair value gap. We have a high here, and we've just been range trading and expanding, right? So it's not about having bias every day. It's just about having some bias some days. They don't have indices charts yet. They just have CFDs currently. But yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to, right? So like if we go to today, why have I not really been watching on indices, right? There's nothing right here that's really giving me a lot of bias, right? The only reason I had some sort of bias on NQ is because what happens here? We fail to take this high. So next day, want it to come back in. We reach for a fair value gap. Here, we fail to displace below previous day low. We come back in. Now here, are we just going to stop randomly in here? Well, I would prefer us to take this daily high into a fair value gap, right? So that's bias. But nothing like this is super clear versus something like this is more clear to me. So while some people might be like, oh, bias was so easy today. Yeah. I don't really give a shit because if it's not clear for me, then I don't care, right? That's why this morning I literally woke up 5:30 and I just read a book in the sunshine. I'm not looking at this, right? Like it's not worth it for me. But handles, background, and colors, sure thing. Right there. I'll put it in chat. 32A938. I mean, there's a few times if you notice, in my video though, I like would cut, and a lot of times that's when I would have my drawing on like I would draw an order block, and then I would go to draw out my liquidity, and then I'd have to sit here and change it, and I don't want people to just sit there, so I would just cut that in the video, or if I had to go to the bathroom or do something or people were being loud. Why no dark mode? I don't know, I see better with this. Everything else on my screens are dark mode. It's literally just this one chart. But yeah, that's essentially it for that. We'll see if we reach for this high. GBP, we'll see. Might just not do it. I don't know. I don't see us we'd have to expand out to reverse, right? Market cycles, right? Consolidate. We don't reverse from consolidation. So if we were gonna reverse, I'd expect a move out, then back in. So I'd like to see this take this previous day high. It just make more sense to me. However, maybe we would do reverse from there. I don't really care because I go back to the daily chart. Do I know what's going on here? We're inside a day. No, I don't really care. So I'll watch this range, see what happens. If we close outside this range, where are we likely going? Well, we have a nice little fair value gap up here. We fail to close outside this range. Well, where are we likely to go? Well, we have a nice low right here. It's just binary. That's it. Draw my candles for videos. Do you mean with that's PowerPoint. I use PowerPoint for that. Yeah, I don't do any other jobs. In the beginning of my trading journey, I was working at a bar from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. What the folks say? My parents don't really. They're skeptical at first, but you explain to them, you show them, and they understand. But 2022 mentorship. Max weekly chart. That's sick. I struggle to trade like swinging. All right, let's see. But yeah, after this, I'm gonna. What's my real name? I'm not gonna dox myself, bro. The whole point of being private is so I can just help people and no one knows who I am. It's kind of how I like it. There's quite a few people that know my real name, but they respect me and don't share that. Background color? F5, 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 F5. PO3. Yeah. My next video on daily bias, I'm gonna try to make that one really good. Like I think if I really, I'll probably start it this week. I generally start my videos the night before, like or the day before. Like I made yesterday's video yesterday, or today's video yesterday. But I think for this one, I'll start early and try to make it like 15, 20 minutes and just really go in depth. Because people make it a lot harder than it was. I mean, I used to make it harder than it was. Like my old daily bias videos are crap. From now, like now that I understand different things, I can just look at the daily chart. And most of the time, I don't have to mark up anything, right? Obviously, there's some PV arrays I'll mark up. But Can do a breakdown of how you approach the market before you take a trade. Possibly in the next live stream. I try not to spend too much time on the computer, and so I'm gonna probably go read and get outside. 1600 level on your chart. That would cause a reaction. Slower learning curve. Too much watching videos and not backtesting. What can I do to make my videos more efficient? I mean, like, I think AM Trades had a good post on this. Like, let's say you just give yourself 60 minutes a day, study, right? I feel like if you are actually caring about something, you can make 60 minutes. 30 minutes of watching actual price action, something like that, you know. Maybe 15 minutes of study if you go at 2x speed, or at least it depends, and then 15 minutes of applying that, something like that. Obviously, it's a lot harder because the way I did it when I was first learning is I was in school, working, and studying, right? So when I was at the gym, I would watch one ICT video at 1.5 to 2x speed. And however long that video was at 1.5 to 2x speed, that's how much cardio I did that day, or like on the bike or warming up. Once that video was over, I put on my music and worked out. But that's how I learned quickly because I made it through like so many videos in 2 weeks. But yeah. I would say, let me see if I can find that AM trades post real quick. Maybe I'll just, I haven't texted him since this morning. Um, I'm scrolling for a while. Let me see if I can find this. No, I don't see it. If you, I'll try to find it, but if you search AM pages for study or something like that word, you'll be able to find a post of how he said to dedicate your time. Not that one. It's a different one. Yeah, I actually did record this live. Yeah, of course. What's up, Tanya? No, I did not do Twitter Spaces. This was like early on when I was watching the 2022 mentorship. So I generally get through one or two of the videos per day at the gym, or I do one video at the gym, one video at night. 2022. Yeah, 2022 mentorship, and then you learn a lot of stuff from other people and like mentors, right? So mentors are like a what really changed it for me. Cardio is about to get tough. Well, the thing is, bro, you don't even worry about cardio anymore. It's just mindlessly doing cardio while you pay attention to the video. So it's like, uh, what do you think of sharing trading insight with other people? ICT himself, not listen to other people. Not sure exactly what you mean, like helping people. Yo, I like your name. Let's go. I haven't watched a single ICT 2023 thing. I think he's giving so much crap that, or not crap, just so many concepts, so much information. I think it's just overwhelming a lot of people, right? And I don't need that. That's just personally how I feel about the 2023. Um, I'm not really. Can you expand on what you mean about other people? And I'll answer. Yeah, I mean, I can possibly in the future we can have people that have like mentor roles, stuff like that. I personally paid for a mentor uh, to mentor me, but I mean, the hard thing is it's like it just depends how much people want to help because like I don't make any money off this Discord community, right? So it's like I can't be like, hey, I'll pay you to do this for me. It's just if people want to help or not. So liquidity and fair value gaps would go hand in hand. Luchen. Next day model. I use the next day model a lot in terms of my bias, right? So that gives me my bias for the day. Then I use the MMXM traders model for my trading. I would pay you teachers. um, maybe eventually. The thing is, I graduate in the fall, so after that, then I'll have a little more time. But I'm still taking 18 credits this semester. Um, daily hour 5. We'll whip through a few more questions, then I'll go outside. Well, I'll give us 5 more minutes. 11:30. That's not the exact tweet I was talking about, but that's a good one. He has a tweet that just talks about if you had like an hour a day to study, how you'd partition it. Apart from ICT videos, what other channels helped you with ICT? I wouldn't say channels, more so studying people's Twitter posts, right? Find someone that you like how they trade, study their Twitter posts. And that's a really good thing to do. At least what I did, right? And then you find peers and mentors, right? So you guys know AM Trades. He and I we kind of both grew on Twitter at the same time, both started kind of at the same time. So we kind of talked and like helped each other or stuff like that. So Everyone wishes they got into trading young. I wish I started earlier, and I'm pretty young still, so relatively. Yeah, there's a few people I talk to on a daily basis. I'd say like four or five. Struggle with trading psychology. Yeah, I used to. I used to go in tilt sometimes. Would take a loss. I don't like losing, right? So what fixed that for me is going out time frames, right? And then reducing my number of allowed trades. No, AM got too many posts. If you think AM has too many posts, how many has he got? He has 2,500. I have 10,000. There was days when I was early on in Twitter. I don't know how many people followed me then. I would have days where I posted like 120 times because I was on the 1 minute chart and I would just live, like, call out live what was happening. And then I would just post so many monkey gifs. It was crazy. But yeah, no, there was time because I was if you go way back, it was like June last a year ago. It was back when I had my thinkorswim charts. You'll see, I was just going insane. I was just on the 1 minute and I just draw arrows of where price should go. Let me see if I can find them. Where's my phone? Yeah, throwback to I went 15 seconds. If I told you how many trades I was taking a day in the 15-second chart, you'd pass out. There's days I was actually taking an insane amount of trades. I looked at my stats for that too. Win rate was crazy. Risk to reward was like zero point 0.6. ICT's model can be automated. I think in some ways it can be, but other ways, like I think everything is slightly subjective, right? Like even if stuff meets criteria, there's sometimes where it's like, oh, it just doesn't look right, or certain things like that. Personally, I haven't automated it, but for me, it's kind of automated. I look at the daily chart. If there's nothing I see, I don't look, right? If there's something I see, then I'll look. So that's kind of how I do it. Yeah, I've laid off the monkey gifs on Twitter. I actually had some people that would comment and they were like, I had to unfollow you because of all your monkey gifs. I'm in machine learning and I just had an idea to implement ICT model into an algorithm. Um, talk to TFO. I'll tag him. So TFO has coded me some stuff. Like if you guys use the sessions indicator, I was like, hey, you should make this. He used that, made it. So he'll make stuff for me. But I really like a clean chart for the most part. So we'll see if NQ is gonna reach for it. I don't look at bookmap. Session indicator. I just use this one. ICT kill zones and pivots TFO. And then I don't really have. Generally, I don't have a lot of stuff on there. And most of the time, I just use it to mark stuff out, and then I close it down because it overwhelms me. There's a lot. Any indicator for order blocks? I know there's some out there, but the thing is, if it marks out every order block, I don't really care for every order block. It has to be used in context of like where, like what time it's occurring, and then where it's occurring, right? So I'm not interested in every order block. But yeah, here's a little one, right? So trending price is either going to respect order blocks, continue higher, right? Or it's going to, holy crap, I just had an aneurysm. or it's going to sweep a low to continue higher, right? Lack of displacement, right? So now we go look over here. What do we have? It's moving higher, closing over here, right? Price is likely to continue where? Higher. We put in a low. We can't reach for this. What does that create? Failure swing, right? Low resistance, liquidity. Then what happens here? Well, we can't displace below this low. So where do we go from here? That's when we go to reach for these highs. Displace over that high, likely to go higher. This is the down close candle into a fair value gap. This should support price higher, right? Obviously, once you start to get towards the draw on liquidity or your objective, it gets a little more sketchy into the highs, at least for me personally. Some people love these. Everyone's different, right? But that's, if you watch the inducement video, really any video, I think I talked about it in my trending entries video, but just watching it. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll do more live streams sometimes. The thing is, I prefer to just do live streams where I teach, just because the way I trade right now is really, like, I'm not taking a lot of trades. Back when I used to do other live streams, I was like taking a lot of trades. So it's just easier to not. But what time is it? 13:30. Nice. So yeah, let's see, 15. Yeah, and if you remember at the beginning of the video, we kind of talked about how I thought price was more likely to reach for this high than go anywhere else, right? If that makes sense. And you can just look at certain things, like see how this candle reacts here, right? Who knows, maybe we put in equal highs, don't take it, or SMT, whatever. Never really know what's going on. I just need brief moments where I know what's going on, and then I'm good. No, I recorded it. Let's see. We're at oh, I thought I didn't record it. We're at an hour, 17 minutes, 40 seconds. Maybe I'll put it on YouTube. We'll see. The thing is, I don't want to like clutter up my YouTube, so maybe I'll put it on like a separate channel, something like that. Discord folder. Yeah, that works too. Yeah, we'll just put it in the Discord. People outside the Discord don't get to watch it. Shucks for them. Alright. I feel like I should actually get off now. Just take a quick look. What's going on? There's your broadening formation. Can't remember who we were talking about that with, but see all that? Happens quite a bit. DXY. BBB is still not hitting there. Well, that is